When enough people have access to a vaccine, it can make a big difference in public health. Think smallpox. We don't see the disease anymore. And that's not just because the vaccine for it is really, really effective.
It's also a function of how many people take it.
Remember Sam? How many people can take a vaccine is really about distribution.
The real nuts and bolts of getting it into a factory, onto a plane, and onto a truck, into a doctor's office, and into somebody's arm is the same question as, do the people who need this product have access to it?
Not just anyone can make and distribute a vaccine. It's a specialized, expensive process. And for businesses to make vaccines, they need to know they'll sell them. That's where things get complicated.
Governments and non-governmental organizations are pretty much the customers, the purchasers for vaccines. These aren't like standard prescription drugs that you get through your insurance. The federal government in the United States purchases at least half of the standard childhood vaccines.
In 2020, the US government bought 200 million doses of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine before people could get the shot.
This evening, I'm pleased to announce that we have reached an agreement with Moderna to manufacture and deliver their coronavirus vaccine candidate.
The bottom line is that people don't really buy vaccines. Governments and NGOs do, in bulk. And the fact that they buy in bulk means that companies have the money to make them. But making them has its own hurdles.
And so when you're talking about the supply chain of a vaccine, there's everything that goes into the vaccine. That's its own supply chain. And then you also have the additional challenges of the things that you need to distribute the vaccine. That is its own supply chain.
Let's start with what goes into the vaccine.
To sort of speak broadly, you are working with biological products. So it's a lot more difficult than making a pill.
Manufacturers need facilities with specialized equipment, and these facilities need to meet high safety standards.
So you can sort of see there if that factory has some sort of quality control issue, you're going to run into a shortage. We saw this on a small scale recently with the vaccine for yellow fever. Only one company makes the yellow fever vaccine, Sanofi. They make it at one factory. That factory had some production issues. It went offline, people couldn't get this vaccine.
Even if everything works perfectly in the factory, vaccines still have to be sent around the world.
You also have the additional challenges of the things that you need to distribute the vaccine. That is its own supply chain. And we've seen some really unusual potential shortages or fears of shortages with some of these COVID-19 vaccines.
Some of them have to be kept really cold. And these require special freezers and the supplies and experts to maintain them.
The Pfizer one, for example, has to be kept at these insanely cold temperatures, colder than winter in Antarctica, literally. There are only so many freezers in the world that can get that cold. They're pretty expensive. You can only get so many of them.
This is really about access. Access to materials, access to technology, and ultimately, access to the shot. And accessing vaccines matters, especially in today's world.
The world is so interconnected and increasingly interconnected, and that's really relevant to the importance of vaccination. Look how quickly COVID-19 got from China to the US and the entire world.
Access to vaccines is a humanitarian issue that impacts all of us.
The global imperative of vaccination is also a local imperative, because if we can wipe diseases out worldwide, that makes us safer at home.
Now, this is hard for the reasons we've talked about. Manufacturers rely on governments and NGOs to buy vaccines. Bottlenecks are common and can happen at multiple points. And ultimately, making vaccines is a matter of access. But one of the biggest challenges vaccines face is whether or not people choose to take them.